All right, Clayton Safey here with EJ Holland. We're from the Wolverine.com here on Wolverine TV. Make sure to check out our promo code over at the Wolverine.com, Blue60, for 2 months free of our premium content. But EJ, we're here at the big house, man. Pretty big, huh?
It is the big house.
Yep. So we're talking some recruiting, obviously, here today. We'll talk about Will Johnson, the five-star corner out of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. His dad, Deion Johnson, obviously played at Michigan. We'll talk about his recruitment in a second. Let's just start with him as a prospect. I know you're super high on him. He's top 15 player in the country. What do you like about him? I know there's a lot to like, but tell us just a little bit about why you're so high on Will Johnson as a prospect.
Yeah, I saw Will Johnson for the first time when he was a freshman. I was still covering the University of Texas, which obviously doesn't recruit Michigan very much, and he immediately popped out to me, and I tweeted about him and everything for literally no reason. I was like, this kid's going to be a national recruit, and then, it worked out that I'm on the Michigan beat now. But, he immediately caught my attention in that 7-on-7 tournament, which featured a lot of talent down south. It was Pylon Atlanta. So he was a standout at a young age. He's extremely long. He's technically sound. Obviously, you can tell that he's learned a lot from his father and has benefited from having Deion around him. Yeah. And, with him, it's just how he keeps guys at bay. His length is something that really is what stands out the most. He's got great height as well. He's 6'2". He moves really well. He's your typical tall, long cover corner that you kind of need in the Big Ten and in the NFL these days. So I think there's a lot to like about Will Johnson, but he's kind of that lockdown corner. And I'm excited to see him more and more as he kind of progresses. We already have him ranked as a 5-star prospect, and I think he's a guy that, could continue to improve as well. He hasn't reached his full potential either.
Right, and he's just on the road from here, obviously Grosse Pointe here on the east side of the state of Michigan. How important would it be to land a kid like that? I know we talk about a lot the kids in 2021 that are some of those kids where you got to keep the perception going. You got to keep, really just for talent's sake alone, like you have the best chance with the kids in your backyard in most cases. How important would it be for Michigan in 2022 to keep that momentum going with another in-state kid whenever he commits?
Yeah, Will's the most important prospect in 2022 from a talent standpoint and from a perception standpoint when you combine those two things. I know there's other highly touted guys on the list like fellow defensive back Damani Jackson, but when you look at the perception, when you look at the talent, when you look at the ties, the fact that he's a legacy, he's obviously the most important guy in 2022. It would be huge to land him from a perception standpoint because obviously he is a legacy. To lose a legacy recruit to a team like Ohio State, which is very high on his mind, or Oklahoma, which is very high on his mind and far away from home, would be pretty much a PR disaster. And then on top of that, Will's such a leader here in Detroit. He's part of the Sound Mind, Sound Body organization. Deion actually was a co-founder of that, which does a lot of great things in the inner city here in the Detroit metro. And Will knows a lot of the top guys from around the area. He's friends with a lot of those guys. I've talked to quite a few prospects in 2022 with Michigan offers, guys like Tyrell Henry and Tayshaun Trent, and all of them have so much respect for Will Johnson. I think he would help bring in a lot of in-state talent, and if you land Will Johnson in 2022, that opens the door to land pretty much whichever guys you want in 2022 in your own backyard and shuts down the narrative.
Last thing, we'll talk about where things stand with him for Michigan. I know he released the top 10 semi-recently a few weeks ago. A lot, Michigan fans know his name and probably are more high on him and he's probably higher on their radar than any other school because of the legacy factor, because of proximity. Where does Michigan stand? How could you rate that top 10? Give us like the top few schools and then possibly a decision timeline. I know you've gotten to know Will and his dad, Deion, quite well. Do you know exactly when he's aiming, or like a date that he's aiming at to make a decision?
Will doesn't have an exact timeline. He's always said that he wants to do it after this season, but that could be in the spring, could be in the summer, it could be, this time next year. So he's not going to make an early decision. He definitely wants to make his visits. As a highly ranked prospect, Will has the luxury of time. he doesn't really need to pull the trigger
Right.
now. And so, I mean, other than Michigan, I mentioned Ohio State is a school that's very, very high on his mind. He loves the DB production there. They've sold him on Jeff Okudah being a top 5 NFL draft pick. Actually compared the two a little bit since I covered Jeff in high school. So it's something that that's weighing heavily on his mind. So Ohio State is in that top group. I would say Penn State is as well. He's really connecting with that staff. Penn State's made some key lands here in the state of Michigan, in the Detroit metro. So I know that, guys like Kalen King and Kobe King are going to be recruiting him to Penn State. So that's something he's considering. Penn State has some Detroit ties on their staff. Outside of that, schools further away from home, like I said, he really likes OU. He, is intrigued by the opportunity to play in the wide open Big 12. Obviously, they don't play a ton of defense there, but
Not at all.
He'll be on the field with a ton of defensive backs. Some schools like OU, Texas, they have 6-7 defensive backs on the field because it's so wide open. So that's intriguing for him. LSU is another school that's been on him since he was younger, and obviously they're known as one of the DBU schools as well. So those are some of the schools I think that are kind of in that top half of the group.
If you want reps, go to the Big 12 because they throw the ball about 80 times a game. You got air raid offenses there, but it's certainly interesting. Will Johnson, like you said, the most important recruit for Michigan in 2022 because of so many different reasons that we mentioned here, the proximity, the legacy factor, and all of that. So we'll keep an eye on Will Johnson. EJ's hitting the road, seeing him throughout this high school season. So stick with us here at thewolverine.com. Head over, use promo code BLUE60 if you're not a subscriber already. You get 2 months of our premium content for free. We'll catch everybody next time here on the Wolverine TV.